today's guest made the leap from being a representative netball player to helping the next generation through nutrition. Lani Finau is a clinical nutritionist, lecturer and speaker who specialises in female health and teen wellbeing. She's also the head of sports nutrition at the New South Wales Tonga Netball Association. Thanks so much for joining me, Lani.
Thank you so much for having me, Abby. It's a pleasure to be here.
First, just wanted to ask, what role did sport play in your life as a kid?
Incredibly foundational role. I truthfully don't know who I would be today without it. It absolutely saved me in a lot of ways from, I think, different troubles that teenagers can get into. It gave me a lot of structure, a lot of accountability, and a lot of, I think, really foundational lessons at a young age, because it teaches you resilience, teamwork, collaboration, learning to get knocked down and get picked back up again. And I'm super grateful for that in my adult career now, having had that.
What kind of was sport? Was it were you just playing it for fun? What sports were you actually playing at that stage? You might have played a lot.
Yeah, so I played pretty much netball only as my main team sport, but I did do a bit of gymnastics, a bit of dancing at the time, definitely nippers growing up in Sutherland Shire area, did nippers for Wanda, loved that, but when I started playing netball, which was quite late, around 11, I sort of fell head first into it and started training all the time, playing all the time, and it was sort of the same age that you sort of could start playing a lot more and doing more representative stuff. So it took over very quickly. There wasn't much time for other sports at that point.
So you seem to get good at netball pretty quickly. It seems were you taking how serious were you actually taking it?
So serious. It's the funniest thing because I truthfully remember such a switch of when there was a day that my parents said, why don't you start playing a team sport, because doing other just solo sports is a bit different. And I was like, fine, all right, what one then? And then they're like, what about netball? Everyone plays netball, the local association here is biggest in Australia. There's heaps of kids playing. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know about that. I cried before my first game. I just was so confused. There's too many positions. There's too many rules. And then I still struggled with it for a few weeks. So mum enrolled me in a netball clinic. And once I went to the clinic, I basically fell in love with it and got a little award at the end of it to do a one-on-one session with one of the Diamonds at the time. It was with Kim Green at the time.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh my goodness, this is the most amazing thing ever. And truthfully, I fell in love with netball that day. I just remember it so distinctly, and everything sort of came after that.
Oh, Kim's great. That would have been pretty cool.
She's amazing. Honestly, she would have done hundreds of thousands of clinics over the years, but that was only my maybe 4th or 5th week playing netball. Wow. And the clinic had 150 kids at it, and they just, she obviously saw, this young lady is very fresh, I didn't really know anything, barely knew how to catch and pass. And so to win just a little 30-minute training session, I just took it as such a privilege. And I basically went home and said to my parents, I love netball, how can I play it more and how can I get better?
So you seriously wanted to play it at an elite level? Was that
straight
the
away?
Goal?
That was the goal. There was not really a gentle period for me of netball of, I just used to play it as Saturdays. Well, it was I started playing and then all of a sudden it was everything. And by the end of that year, so I was 11 when I started playing, by 6 months later, which was September or something, I had made the New South Wales under-12s team. Wow. And so that also helped solidify, you can actually do things when you put your mind to them and you train really hard for them.
Yeah, so it seems like you said, you got into it and you're really good at it straight away, but to love it that much straight away and be I want to keep playing this. What do you think you loved so much about it?
The girls. There are girls who are my lifelong friends and they became so through netball. I think I have beautiful friends from all other walks of life, but there's something so different about a friend who you go through a sporting journey with, especially a teammate. You see each other at the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, and you have to pick each other up at each point and always be there for one another. And it's the biggest privilege that I've walked away from is to have lifelong friends from the sport I've played. And for me, it was netball.
Yeah, now I guess something I did want to talk a bit more about, which is obviously why I guess I'm chatting to you today, is that I think I read that you said that you saw kind of firsthand how challenging it was to fuel your body appropriately as a young female athlete. Can you just talk a bit more about that and kind of how you just came to discover that?
Yeah, I think as with all things, it does feel like female sport is just still on the back burner in a lot of ways. And so being a young female athlete coming through the representative ranks, we definitely had a bit of exposure to the sort of extra supporters like diet and nutrition and, certain types of exercise physiologists and trainers and things like that. And so I learnt quite quickly that I feel really different when I eat certain things and what I've consumed that day of how I play and perform. And it was very helpful when we had a few, sports dietitians and sports nutritionists come in to talk. But even at that point, it was just, it truthfully wasn't enough, and it wasn't a deep enough amount of information that we needed. It was like a quick 30-minute session. Here's a handout. Bob's your uncle. And I learnt lots, but then also not a lot about how to practically implement it. And it was hard. Like, it was really, really hard to feel yourself and feel energized enough to do that much training whilst also being a growing teenager,
So obviously you were very passionate about it, and you kind of realized pretty early on, but how did you go from that to actually wanting to work in that space and to be a nutritionist?
Yeah, I actually originally went through a period where I wanted to be a physio. Okay. And then I thought, I don't know if I've had such a experience where I have had with food, where once I started researching for myself, okay, well, what's a good breakfast? What's protein? What on earth should I put in my breakfast that has protein that will make me feel better? And once I started doing all this education myself and feel the difference from that, it became very clear of, well, this is what you need to do, because if you had to figure that out by yourself as a 15-year-old trying to get through the ranks of elite sport, then someone needs to be there to support the next generation of athletes coming through, particularly for me, female athletes.
Yeah, because I think something that you said as well was that it ultimately kind of researching that and realizing that it led you to switch gears and move from netball to kind of work in this space. So did you always want to just completely give up netball? Because you told me before that you were still playing netball now. So how did that all work?
No, that was a hard period. I definitely tried to juggle both for a while there. I think it was a combination of two things. So around the age of, would have been 17, 18 by that point, that I'm graduating school, and then, did my degree. My degree was very intensive, and I was required to be on campus a lot of hours, and then we play out at Homebush, so we'd be travelling late night. I was doing, 5 a.m. wake up, training, going to uni for the day, and then going to a game straight from uni and getting home at 10:30, 11 and trying, do it again. It was exhausting, and that's why the female athletes of today, they all still do juggle full-time roles plus these elite positions in sports teams. But regardless, I definitely was hitting burnout, and it was coming coincidingly with I missed out on some teams that I would have really have loved to be a part of, but I did take that as a sign of, it's because at this moment my passion had switched. I was so invested in those 8 hours at uni a day, learning everything I could about nutrition, that sometimes you do just have to honour when that passion has changed and be really realistic with yourself of, right now I need to switch and shift all my energy into the nutrition thing, and I can come back and support the netball world afterwards once I've done that thing, Yeah.
So you think if you maybe weren't focusing, you weren't burning out as much, you would have maybe been able to do both?
Oh, maybe. If I could have made some more teams, maybe. But I think, truthfully, there are two things to me that stand out in any sport and athlete that goes on to do well. They need to have that unwavering passion for that sport, and they also need to be ready to be the team player and be collaborative with all of those around them. There's no I in team for a reason. And I think I always had the team collaboration bit, but because I couldn't give my 150% whilst trying to do uni, that is not fair on my teammates, and it's not something I would ever be comfortable with, of being excused from training because I'm at university that day and stuff like that. So it was just a sacrifice I had to make at that moment, which was it was hard.
Well, it's great to hear you still love netball. Hopefully you can get back into it soon as well, keep playing. But I guess another thing about you is that obviously you specialise in kind of female and teen health, but I guess teen health is something I'm interested in because a lot of girls, as we know, drop out of sport when they're kind of in that age group. So is that always something you knew you wanted to kind of focus on, teen health?
Absolutely. I feel very passionate about the teen, adolescent, kid kind of arena of health, because there's just not enough information out there. But to your point, for female athletes specifically, so many of them drop out at 13, 14, 15. Yeah. And yes, a lot of it is to do with, society pressures, and they want to go out with their friends more and prioritize different things. But I do also think it's because it's that really pivotal time where food can play such an incredible role in how they show up every day. What is their mood today? What is their energy today? How are they feeling internally? And so when they're not feeling good, then they feel less resilient, then they feel less able to keep up the team sport that they're doing. They want to drop out, do something else. And I just see it as this like snowball effect where that's where I'm like, well, I can just play a big role at least in the nutrition component and just help them feel better, and then maybe they'll feel more ready to conquer taking on more things at the same time.
So you think that's maybe like one of the aspects of girls dropping out of sport that maybe people like overlook? Like, do you think that's one
Absolutely.
of the bigger reasons?
I think it would be a massive reason. The amount of teens I will have personally in nutrition clinic coming, and their parent will just be saying to me, yeah, they used to play a lot of sport, but then they're just so tired all the time and sort of feeling not great, was the main driver at which they decided to then just stop doing the thing that was making them feel extra tired and less resilient of all those things. And I truly do think if more athletes, young teen athletes, felt better every day, they would stay in sport longer, and they would understand the value of that it brings them.
Yeah, well, I'm sure like things have changed like since you were younger, but do you think you have seen a bit of a change in just the research being done specifically for girls and women?
I think so. We're getting there. Research-wise, well, probably not there yet, but definitely education, programs, awareness. I think social media is good and bad, but the good is that these teens who are on social media every day now have access to great information if they know where to look or the right person to follow. So anyway, I think it is getting better.
I actually did want to ask you about kind of the social media side of things, because I've heard you speak about it like a little bit before, because obviously I'll go on Instagram and I'll see a lot of advice being given out about what food to eat and like how to kind of just nourish your body like as a teen. But like what do you kind of think about that? You do think it can be used positively?
So, totally. My first piece of advice is always to tell teens to follow people in those fields, nutrition, wellness, that you can see are qualified, which is very hard. It's very confusing. People can add a lot of jargon that might make someone feel like they are specialised or an expert in that area. But you just need to check, do they have a degree and do they have a qualification in what they're talking about, nutrition or dietetics? If so, they're going to be a great option to follow. That's a good first step as opposed to just an influencer or somebody speaking just broadly about wellness.
Yeah, because like I've seen some of the stuff that you post on social media. Like I'm sure it's really helped you a lot to expand your platform.
Oh, absolutely. That's the easiest touch point I have to the community of people that follow me. I do have the privilege of sitting one-to-one with people. I have the privilege of sitting in person and delivering a workshop to 50, 100 people. But the online platform is a chance for anyone, any day, to tap into things that I like to talk about and educate people on. And as long as they know, Lani, at least she did this degree, she specialised in this area, maybe I feel a liken to that, I can learn some things, they can take some information away.
Yeah, because I guess another thing that you have apart from your social media and everything, which I want to talk a bit about, is you founded the Think Well project, which I think is like a program and workshop that you're actually doing here today before we're chatting. So could you just talk maybe a bit about that and why you started it?
So the Think Well project is a new program that I've launched designed for school-age students, and it essentially is just a neat little 1-hour workshop that wraps up what I am of the opinion is foundational nutrition information that every child should hear. The goal is to get that delivered annually into schools and have it at different touch points. So, the Think Well project for the year 5 and 6 kids that are heading into high school, then another one around year 8 and 9 for that age bracket, and then a senior school sort of HSC toolkit type talk. But I feel very passionately about getting into schools because there are so many wonderful treatments and medicines and medications out there, but prevention is important and education is the strongest form of prevention. So if I can deliver that to our youth, then we're going to set a lot of future generations up for success.
So did you want to start this kind of because you didn't feel like you were being taught enough about it, like in schools? Was that another thing you were seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the ownership needs to come off parents from being the only ones to deliver this information. The school curriculum is jam-packed with other things that are so important, and one day I would love stronger nutrition information to be built into that curriculum, but there is just a whole gap of this information of what to eat, how to eat, what is this, what is that, in practical ways that these teens can walk away with, that is missing. It's really, really missing. And so the Think Well project, I built it so that it will give everything they need. It's very easy to achieve. It's all very visual, very tangible for the teens, and they can walk away knowing, hopefully 5 to 10 things that they could implement straight away without having to ask mum or dad, grandma, parent, teacher, anyone around them to do anything. These are internal decisions they can make and practical strategies they can put into play without any of those factors having to change.
Yeah, because I imagine, because what you're doing, I guess you're mainly appealing to girls, because they're the ones that kind of miss out on all of this information. Because what have you found with that? Because I guess in schools, when we're being taught about healthy nutrition, you're talking to 18-year-old boys, but also the same information with 12-year-old girls. Like, how do you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, that's where I am quite. If it has to be a variety of age groups, it is a lot easier if it's, I can do a female health workshop or a male health workshop. So we can go a bit more into like hormones and things like that. But otherwise, doing it on an age group basis, if it's like similar ages, all 15 and 16 male and females, I think it's really important for both of them to understand the nuances between one another's nutritional requirements. And that is, truthfully, the way I go about it is to educate them on both. And because it is important that we're aware of the differing needs between one another and how it is different at different phases, because that helps us be more aware and accountable of those around us. And nutrition is a lot about environment. So if we can start to be more understanding of how food impacts lots of different people and how we engage with it, then it's going to be better outcome for all.
Yeah, because you have spoken and it sounds like the responses have been really good, but I feel like I've heard some people say, they think nutritionists and dietitians are just trying to ruin the fun and make everyone eat healthy, but do you have to deal with any of that, or is the response pretty good?
I will say, well, I understand why they say that, because food in the modern world has become this means of, added sugars, added salts, added this, added that, which make it super addictive and super strong reaction to food, because it's being built that way. It's being built to ignite this dopamine hit, this feel-good hit, which is a great thing. But food can be enjoyed, and it doesn't necessarily have to be highly refined, highly processed food. It is more that we've just evolved over the past few years to think that they are the fun foods, when I am more about encouraging people. It's not what you can't have. All food is fun and great and awesome and important, but it's about falling back in love with the real food. It's crazy that we don't really think about real food as real food anymore. It's become all blurred into one, and you can get a bit defensive if somebody says, that's not a great food option, but it's just that it's not a real whole food option anymore. But no, I'm big on food for fun. I will always, the 80-20 is so important. What you do 80% of the time isn't going to impact what you do on the 20,
Yeah, I've heard the 80-20 rule actually.
It's excellent,
Because I imagine it's like, can you just talk about how important it actually is to educate kids on this, so that they're not seeing this stuff on social media and going, I need to eat super healthy, I can't eat any processed food.
Yes, no, it's so important, and that is what I would strive my main message to be always, is that food should be fun and there is room for all food, and to give the personal story of it, because everyone wants to know, what do you eat then as a nutritionist? And I just say, the more I studied, the less strict I got on what I ate, because it all has a place, and you should have a lot of enjoyment from how you eat and a lot of interaction with the food that you eat. We don't spend enough time cooking and sort of interacting with our food anymore. But I think it's there. It's designed to be fun and engaging, and it should feel that way too.
I do want to switch gears a bit, and I mentioned in the intro that you are the head of sports nutrition at the New South Wales Tonga Netball Association.
Yes.
Just wanted to ask you about how you got into the role, like what it actually involves.
Yes, shout out to those amazing ladies, and the ladies running it. It's just being built from the ground up, but then all the beautiful athletes. So how I got into it is, I am Tongan. So my dad is from Tonga, which is a little Pacific island for anyone's not familiar. But the Tonga netball representation wasn't really there in Sydney, New South Wales prior. And it's a massive deal over in Tonga and all the Pacific Islands. Like, sport is a massive deal. We all know that. There's a lot of different sports that come to mind when we speak about the Pacific Islands, but netball is one that is such an important one. We just hadn't really built a platform for Tongan athletes to thrive here in Australia in the netball industry. And so, in a nutshell, it's basically this beautiful association to help Tongan athletes go through the ranks, get this incredible training from incredible athletes. Mania Gerard's one of the coaches there. She was my favourite wing defence player back in the day. And it's a privilege to be a part of that community, and I just give back from the nutrition point of view. You know, we do nutrition talks talking about everything that they need to know as a female growing athlete and how to feel themselves.
So did you always know that you wanted to kind of be involved in that space as well as doing everything else with that?
Absolutely. Mel called me, who is one of their association head ofs, and just basically said, hey, Lani, we're thinking of doing this thing. Would you be involved? I was like, yes. No questions asked. Yes. That's a real passion area of mine because it's a community that will always mean the most to me, you know, the Pacific Islander community. And who knows, maybe one day we'll be able to go over to into Tonga and deliver these types of nutrition workshops. Like, that would be a true dream for me because there's a whole different kettle of fish there that needs support as well, like a lot of support.
I think it's a reasonably kind of newish program. So
yes, very new. This would only be the second year.
Wow, okay.
Yeah,
very new.
Very, very new. So watch this space, basically. Hopefully it can keep growing and these athletes can have more opportunities in tournaments to play and represent Tonga, New South Wales, and amazing.
Has it been cool, because obviously you give them advice and you give them nutrition advice, but has it been cool kind of seeing you give them advice and then they've kind of taken it and been able to improve their game? Has there been
Absolutely.
a case of that?
Yeah, and actually what I'll even touch on there is that what has been cool is that I can tailor that nutrition advice to not just the teen athlete, but the teen Pacific Islander athlete and bring in cultural aspects and cultural foods that we eat and enjoy and explain how we can use those to fuel our body, because again, that's a whole nother area of nutrition of not everyone just eats the classic Western diet of foods that we think about. You know, there are traditional foods in all of the different cultures, they get missed as well. That's a whole nother gap in the nutrition market, where if we're going to be speaking to any group of people, you better make it culturally appropriate for them and realistic for the types of foods that are available in that household. And so I think that's been really cool. But to answer your other question, yes, seeing those athletes sit for a talk, take on some information, and then go and immediately be able to implement that and come back next time and say, guess what, I'm feeling a bit stronger, or I actually don't get as fatigued in the third quarter now because I'm eating this at half time and then I home this 3 hours before, and whatever, it's that will always be my favorite part of the job, hearing how people are feeling after we've helped them with their nutrition.
No, I like what you touched on though. I'm sure it's been cool for you because like you said, I guess we don't all eat the same foods, and I guess Western culture might be different to the foods that you would kind of incorporate as well. But I'm sure that's cool for them as well to have someone with a Tongan heritage be able to incorporate some of those foods into.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is what's so important for teenagers is they need to feel seen and heard and understood. And there are lots of aspects in which that isn't happening at the moment, but a cultural aspect is absolutely one of them, and giving these teens the space to sit, listen to me talk about nutrition, but then feel really seen and heard because I've got foods on the board that they actually have, that mum has been cooking for years and years on end, not something that they've never eaten this particular type of meal because it's just not in the cultural diet, It's important, and it needs to keep evolving that way. I think every person that works in the nutrition and health industry has a real obligation to start to diversify how they talk about these foods and ensure that it is engaging for the particular culture that you are working with at that time.
I did want to ask about just across different sports as well. Do you find that you have to adapt the kind of foods and the kind of advice you're giving from netball compared to like marathon running? Like how does it change?
Oh, absolutely. I talk about it a lot, like at the start of any sport nutrition session, we will go through the physiological demands of that sport to really set the tone of, okay, you're a netballer, so you're doing in a minute exercise where you are moving really quick, really fast, a lot of anaerobic energy, but then sometimes you tap into your aerobic stores when you're playing for long or you're doing a 3-hour training session. Very different to, if I had a group of marathon runners, and they're just training and running for hours and hours on end, the fuel requirements are so different, and it comes a lot down to glucose and glycogen stores and basically use of quick energy that's freely available to stored energy that needs to be tapped into over a period of time.
There's a lot of science involved.
A lot of science, too much science. I use a lot of more friendly analogies, the main one being petrol is sort of like the glycogen stores. When you run out, you go to the petrol station and you got to fill up there, and that's how they can start to think practically about, that's why I'm eating this units to top up my glycogen stores, like I'll go to the petrol station. Whereas the fuel in your car, that's your free-flowing glucose ready to go, ready to play, but you'll run out eventually and you have to go top up again.
That's actually a really good analogy.
Yeah. It helps a bit because glucose, glycogen, everyone just glazes over and says, just stop.
It's definitely helpful to get your head around it. You might get confused sometimes. But I do want to ask as well, because obviously you played representative netball, so sport has been a pretty big part of your life in terms of playing it, but there's a lot of like athletes, and I guess they can't all go professional, but why do you think it would be good, I guess, do you think it would be good to have more athletes kind of go into this space?
Oh, into the nutrition space? Absolutely. I think the more people that work in nutrition and health, the better. And interesting, that's something I actually get asked a lot is, do I feel like it's all getting too oversaturated now, especially with social media? There's the people that are qualified, and then there's the thousands of millions of people that aren't qualified, but they're still speaking in that space. There's a lot of noise in the nutrition world. And so my answer is no. If there is anything we need, then it is more qualified professionals. And if you are from the athlete sporting background and getting to that elite representative pathway is not the end goal or where you end up, you can still be involved with the sporting world and give back to the sporting world and the future generations of athletes by being a nutritionist or a dietitian. And I get truly so much pleasure out of the work I get to do. It doesn't feel like work, it feels like an honor to get to do it and to see the change in everyone, but particularly young athletes, because that's who I work with a lot, how they feel. And I would encourage anyone to get into that field if they're at all into helping people and staying around sport.
And I imagine it's especially good because you've experienced what it's like to not feel, I guess, as seen and heard and not know what foods to eat. Do you think that kind of helps you to just, I guess, tailor your workshops or just when you're speaking to people, just understand what they're actually going through now? Absolutely,
Abby. I think you're nail on the head there. Anything in life, I believe you can speak better about when you're truly passionate about it and have had a first-hand experience in it. And that would be a massive reason of why I feel so grateful to do what I do and why I enjoy it so much. It's because I felt the first-hand impact that had on me. I loved feeling stronger, more energized. I didn't have to take naps in the afternoon after school when I started actually focusing on what I put into my body. And, truthfully, most athletes aren't eating enough. So actually start eating enough. And that was a great feeling. That helped me be a stronger, more vibrant human in general. And I'll do anything to get other people to feel like that.
I hope so. Well, I hope lots of people listen to this chat and really take that advice in. But I do just have one more question to you, which I asked all the people that I interview just at the end, which is just why has it been important for you to stay involved in sport throughout your life?
Because it provides structure and a community. And I will always need that for myself. It can push you in ways that you wouldn't be pushed in other areas of your life. It teaches you resilience. But truthfully, the structure, especially for teenagers, knowing I've got training 3 times this week and I've got a game on Saturday, it just helps you stay on track. And then the community, need I say more? Everyone here would be able to think about friends that they've made, which is all what life is about, the friends and the family and the people you share it with. And sport just gives you the most beautiful platform to find all of these like-minded people that you can have around you for life. So yeah, that would be why.
I love that. I completely agree with all of it. But thank you so much for the chat, Lani. It was great to chat to you.
Thank you, Abby, so much. I love her way, and it was just a privilege to come on.